so we'll make a start then. So welcome everyone to this Libraries Connected webinar. We are delighted to welcome colleagues today from the RNIB. They will be hosting and I'm just merely here as a facilitator. So this is part of a mini-series exploring the accessibility of library apps, and today we have Overdrive joining us and they're going to talk about the Libby app. So before I hand over to Lara at the RNIB, just a few matters of housekeeping. So firstly, to make clear that we are recording today's webinar and we will circulate it afterwards. We'll also circulate the slides that are being shared. While our speakers are talking, if you could please keep yourself muted, but we are going to open a Q&A at the end. So please do use the chat function to add any questions that you have into the chat. And so without any further ado, I am delighted to introduce Lara Marshall, Libraries Engagement Manager at the RNIB. Over to you, Lara.
Thank you so much, Becky. Really kind. And again, Libraries Connected, thank you so much for hosting us again. We had a really fab session last week when we were talking about PressReader. So excited to look at Libby this week. So as you guys know, I think I will have met some of you before. I support and empower libraries with anything around blind and partially sighted people. And as wonderful as some of the RNIB resources are, the digital resources that you have in libraries are amazing. And I think having the option for a blind or partially sighted person to go into a library and have access to BorrowBox, to Libby, to PressReader is incredibly empowering. So we're going to have a look at Libby today. We have the lovely Scott Smith from Overdrive who'll be talking about the general accessibility of the app. And then I have one of my colleagues, Devinder, who's a user with lived experience, who'll be talking about his experience using the app. Would love any questions. Please don't feel like you have to save them until the end. Put them in the chat the whole way through so you don't lose them. And also in the chat, just like tell me where you're from so I know which library service if I've been to visit you before. Don't feel like it'll interfere with anything, but we probably won't address them until right at the end. So thank you so much for being here. And I will pass over to Scott Smith. Over to you, Scott.
Thank you, Lara. Good morning, everyone. As mentioned, my name's Scott Smith. I am an account manager for Overdrive, predominantly working with libraries in the east of the country. So I may have some of my customers here. We have 3 account managers in the country. So you may work with Laura or Lorraine. But I've got a few slides talking about the settings in Libby. So I'll just share my screen and turn my camera off. Second. Okay, are we seeing that full screen?
Thumbs up. That's good.
Yep, perfect. Okay, so welcome to today's accessibility session. Obviously, we feel it's important that libraries' digital content can be enjoyed by all, which is why we've developed a number of accessibility tools and features to cater for all readers. Where's that not clicking along? There we go. Okay, I'm assuming most of you have used Libby before, but I've put this slide in for those that may not have done, just so after the session you can follow the instructions, download the app and have a look at the features discussed today, as well as the great content provided by libraries. So to start with, we are going to look at how users will navigate the Libby app. And then following that, what features are available for them when enjoying content, whether that be an ebook, audiobook, magazine, etc. And finally, I'll have a page that links out to some further resources for you to enjoy. So first of all, I look at what accessibility settings are available in the menu area of Libby, so users can set up the app to suit their needs. First of all, reducing color variation. This reduces adaptive changes, favoring neutral colors with good contrast. So by default, when viewing a book's title page, information page, the background colors sort of reflect and pull colors from the book's cover, just for aesthetic reasons, really. So users do have the option to set that up and have more of a plain background. Similarly, with text variation, that can be reduced, so fewer bolds and italics, more plain, clear text. Reducing motion, so animation between transitions in the app can be switched off. Similarly with vibrations as well, these can be turned off. And finally, orientation. So there's a couple of orientation options. Smart orientation uses the best suited orientation, whether that be portrait or landscape, despite device settings. System will lock this and reflect how the user has set up their device. Okay, now on to some automated features throughout the app to support navigation. So dynamic text scaling, first of all. The text shown on the interface and book blurbs, etc., will reflect how a user has set up their device. So if a user's device is set up to read text messages and browse the internet, etc., with large text, that will also be reflected in the Libby interface. Keyboard navigation. Individuals with visual impairments and some with mobility impairments may rely on their keyboards to interact with the web. So when using Libby, they can also use the keyboards to navigate, and they simply just press Shift / to access the quick navigation options. Dark mode. Libby uses the device's built-in lighting settings to display the app in dark mode or light mode accordingly. Using dark mode increases color contrast, which may be required by some users with visual impairments. Similarly, if a user's device is set up with specific colored hues or color filters, this is also automatically reflected in the Libby app. Icon labels. So by default, the labels at the bottom of the Libby app are just icons. They don't have any text, but users can switch these on. This reduces the cognitive load by helping users not have to remember what each icon means. And this is simply done in the menu by going to settings and customize navigation. We offer screen reader support, so low vision and blind users can use screen readers to browse and borrow content in the Libby app. Right now, they can use the following screen readers: iOS VoiceOver for Apple devices, and there's Android TalkBack as well, and various desktop screen readers too are compatible with Libby. And onto languages. So again, Libby automatically uses the language the device is set up in, or the web browser if they're using a computer, so long as it's supported within the app. So currently there are 16 languages supported in Libby, but this is growing and counting all the time. If there are languages you feel are missing in the app, just please contact your account manager. We'll take that on board, and our developers will work on adding those languages to Libby. Okay, so that was a general look at how users can navigate the app and search for content. The settings are available there. Now we'll look at settings and features that are available for users when enjoying content. So starting with ebooks and magazines, if you're looking at a magazine in the article view, readers have various options they can set. So they can adjust the text size. This can be made larger, smaller, obviously. And there is also some extra accessibility settings, so users can increase that text size even more. Font style, users can choose from a range of different typefaces, including dyslexic font. Lighting, as I mentioned, when interacting with the interface, the lighting and dark settings are pulled from the device settings, but when reading an ebook, they would need to set this separately, so they can choose from CPR, dark mode, or bright. If there is a screen hue set in the device, that will be reflected in the ebooks too. And customization. So users can adjust things like line spacing, letter weight, and justification. So there's all kinds of text settings they can choose from to set up the book to their exact requirements. Onto audiobooks. So when listening to an audiobook in Libby, users can adjust the playback speed choosing from 48 settings, ranging from 0.6 times speed to 3 times speed. That's pretty fast. I don't know if I could listen to an audiobook that fast, but it's there. It's there. They can choose a preset, or they can fine tune to a custom speed to get to the exact speed they like. Again, keyboard shortcuts are available when reading and listening to content. Similar story to when interacting with the interface. Users can get access to the options by holding Shift and pressing the / key. Okay, on to some additional formats. So these formats can help meet the unique needs and interests of readers in the community. So in addition to ebooks and audiobooks, libraries can add the following to their Libby platforms. Read-along ebooks. These are predominantly picture books that Libby reads out loud to the users, comics and graphic novels, magazine, as well as various video content. So that could be streaming films and documentaries through Canopy, or content from some of our partner companies that supply instructional videos, courses, etc. So it's more than just ebooks and audiobooks. With some of that additional content, such as magazines, read-alongs, picture books, or graphic novels, the best way to view them is in full page mode rather than going into the article mode. When in that mode, there may be text that you need to enlarge or pictures you need to see more closely. So users can use a pinch and zoom technique to enlarge the content in full page mode. Okay, so that's a general look at the accessibility features and options for users when browsing and searching for content and when enjoying content. We'll share this PDF after the session, and this resources page will link out to some further resources available to you. So we have the Libby help site, which has articles, videos of all aspects of Libby, including all of our accessibility options. We also have a Libby for every reader training module. This looks at the things I've discussed this morning, gives you more of a deep dive of some interactive course there. So this is a great follow-up to this session. Other staff training, all aspects of Libby, Marketplace, Canopy as well is available. And also for you librarians, we offer a free diversity audit. So we can measure the content in your collection, whether that be foreign language content, neurodiversity content, and much, much more. So if you're interested in having that audit, just contact your account manager or link through from this PDF and we can do that for you. And finally, we have our Libby Life blog. This will keep you up to date with all of our updates. We're constantly enhancing the app, adding new exciting features. And obviously we feel that all those features should be available for every reader, which is why we, concentrate and pride ourselves on adding so much accessibility options to Libby. So that's the Libby accessibility in a nutshell. It's all well and good me telling you about all these features, but as Lara and Becky mentioned at the beginning, next we'll hear with someone who has lived an experience and to give you some valuable insight into how some of our users will enjoy Libby. Thanks for listening, and speak to you again at the end.
Cheers. Thanks for that. Appreciate it, Scott. So yes, this is Devinder. I've got vision impairment and I'm a screen reader user. I've been using technology for many years and been teaching blind and partially sighted people and also formerly working with Lara. And I thought I'd kind of give you an overview just on both sides of me using it from a registration perspective and then actually interacting with the application as well. So key thing for librarians to probably really be bearing in mind is a lot of the services, including Libby, really want the barcode, which is a common language, which when I registered wasn't always known as barcode because it's a X amount of digits you get. So people may get confused by that barcode, kind of language. So that might be the other piece of information which is really important is the 6-digit PIN. And again, that's something at registration I stored. It's strange actually because I wasn't aware at the time of registration from my local library whether I would have got an email, but I don't think I have got an email from that. So it's something I will definitely look into. and maybe Lara, something we could pick up after. But something that users who do register might be thinking between there's a section where it said, yeah, which library are you aiming for? You had two options. So I could search, or I could do a geolocation, which to get my location from my current exit where I was. So that was fine. Interactions were generally, I'd say usable. There was a few buttons which are what we call unlabeled, which start to mean that it might not describe fully, but I'll come on to that in a moment. From a general interaction, what the app does quite well, it lets the user know where they are, the sections they're in, so that was all spoken. What I would probably say from an audit perspective, from a screen reader user, it's not always straightforward to understand where the tabs were. There was a situation where I was going through looking for filters. With those filters, okay, I did a test of audiobooks. And what was really handy actually with that was I could literally touch audiobooks with a smartphone like an iPhone, which is, I was using VoiceOver to do this test. And it will say audiobooks, X amount of 1,000 books. And in a kind of a way, an audible way, what you might get visually, it was quite good to have that level of granularity. So I've got X amount of thousands of books, and then I could go down whether you wanted fiction, non-fiction. So that whole process was great. The other part that I would say, there's two areas I would say that, again, following on from discussions as previous, when we go into the features of listening to a book or even sampling a book, which most platforms, Audible, Libby, PressReader do, a few others, it's a situation whereby I'd say that experience started to have a couple of barriers. Buttons were over verbose. So what that means is it was giving me labels of information behind rather than just say speaking rate. Or there was a menu or drop down, and I was like, what's that refer to? So there's a lot of exploration. So some of these design things can be fixed, of course, but in terms of doing and listening, and I think I did Pride and Prejudice, the Audible book, audio book, shall I say. There was a few aspects where, yes, I could absolutely speed up things, but there was a journey getting there. From a screen reader user's perspective, I'd probably say those are things that are going to have to be developed, I'd say, because I think from that screen, what was really interesting was once I was then like, okay, I've listened to a few books, I'll close the page, and at the top left was a close button. But what interested me was that sample kept playing. And I had to then explore the screen and went to the bottom of the screen and realized the player was right at the bottom and the media controls were right there. So again, just a little bit of first time using that kind of awareness could cause some people to be like, well, I've closed that. Why is it still playing? So just a few design things that I think are just important for people to know. Beyond that, I think everything else I actually achieved. So yeah, the audiobooks, the playing, there are, I think, definitely going to be some discussions around how headings and things are categorized, because that can be a little bit, I would say, confusing for a screen reader user. But I'm sure with Scott and the team being as engaged as they are, that'll be something we could work on. But overall, generally, it was a doable experience. So over to you, Laura.
That's so useful, Davinder. Thank you. And as I'm sure we're all aware, I think accessibility is an ongoing, ever-evolving thing. So we're really keen also, I'm keen to hear Davinder's feedback as well as the information from Libby and yours as well. Because as we were saying last week, you guys are the bridge, you guys are the bridge between the app, the app developers and those blind and partially sighted users that are coming into your library. So we're really keen to hear from you. I think the presentation from Scott was brilliant. That was so useful. And now is your chance to ask any questions to myself, Davinder or Scott. Was there anything in the chat? I did see a couple of things in the chat about the PressReader recording, some echo. Did anyone else have any questions? Feel free to put your hand up too. No.
Interesting. Yeah.
It seems that that is all really nicely covered. Well, we did have you know, some time set aside for that. So if you're happy with that, then, you know, we can let you have some time back today. But I'm really interested, Scott, in the learning module. I'd love to have a look at that, if that's all right with you, like the training one.
Yep, of course. I'll email you the link directly, and it will be
Amazing.
the resources page in the slideshow I shared will have hyperlinks, so you can all go and access that. And that will give you more of a deep dive in what I covered in that 10 minutes, so you can get more information on each of the features.
Perfect. I think that would be really useful, and again, great for library staff too. And always happy to, you know, carry on these discussions. Oh, I think we have a question. Sue from Hertfordshire says some features appear to be available only on laptop PC. Is that correct? So only, I assume, Sue, only on laptop PC as opposed to the app.
There's I don't believe there's anything that's only available on a PC. There are some features which are only available on an app, a tablet, etc., because they're not relevant to PC, such as the vibrations, etc. But I will double check that for you. PC only
Scott, I
features.
think what I'm just sort of cut across, I'm thinking, was it the language where you said shift and the right bracket? Was it a bracket or was it the slash? The reason I'm asking that is because obviously using an iPhone without a keyboard, that wouldn't apply. So is that, I'm trying to think, would it be the language you've used there? Would it be maybe with a Windows computer?
Yeah, yeah, but yeah. If technically someone could technically, I guess, Bluetooth a keyboard to their phone. I know you can, Bluetooth
Yeah,
the
sure,
keyboard to your tablet. So
sure,
if that's the case, then the keyboard shortcut would work.
sure.
Sue, does that answer your question? Kind of.
Can we use them on the phone? Um, yes, yep. The features I've gone through can be used on the phone as well.
Feel free to take yourself off mute if that's easier.
Hi, yeah, I'm here with Keith, who's our
Hi.
IT. Hello, I'm here with Keith, our IT champion. What I'm
Okay.
wondering is, it did sound like, and you're absolutely right, Davinda, the thing about some of the keyboard shortcuts that was suggested, we were wondering if that meant only on PCs and laptops and not on the app on a phone. And I think, yeah, we're just sort of wondering on an iPhone or an Android phone, are they going to work? And also, I think concern, because I think you mentioned Bluetoothing something, and a lot of our members are older. The location of the library is quite near to a lot of sheltered accommodation. We have a lot of older members of the public who might not be their sight impairment isn't bad enough for them to be using screen readers and things like that, and they're not that IT literate. So Bluetooth thing might be a little bit beyond what they'd be used to doing. So I'm just wondering how we can make it a bit more accessible for them. Would that be fair, Keith?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a library staff member. I'm just a volunteer. But I think both with PressReader and with Libby, one of the things that strikes out is that, there's a strong focus on users with visual disabilities, but majority of our users have got varying degrees of cognitive disability, and that's something that I think in general accessibility, leaves till last, but it's actually quite important. And a lot of these features, I mean, you have one, for example, which you didn't mention, but you can delay how long pop-ups are on the screen. And something like that seems pretty trivial, but that's really important because a lot of older users get very flustered when screens pop up and then disappear immediately before they've had a chance to read it. So I think my sixpenneth would be, it's great that you've got all this sort of integration with screen readers, but most of our users either have a tablet or a laptop or a smartphone that has been bought for them. They have limited knowledge of how to use it.
Yeah.
But these sort of applications can make a huge difference. We had one customer who was an older Indian gentleman, and he was using PressReader to get at Indian newspapers, you know, to have a taste of home. And for him, if I can remember the correct way around, they had all the fantastic translation tools, but he could speak his home language, but he found it very difficult to read it. So although it was translating the text, what he really needed was it translated into the spoken language. So things like that, where it's not so much that the user has a difficulty seeing what's in front of them, but just knowing how to use it.
So
Yeah.
hold on. So just so I can understand and make sure that we're getting the right idea of how to support you from your question. So you're saying that you would like more support in how to, you know, be able to make the experience simpler for those users, maybe with the, you know, with the lesser cognitive functions.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and anybody with less familiarity with IT who might have a quite minor sight impairment, but simply just doesn't have the familiarity with a lot of apps and so on to be able to use it more easily. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
just
useful feedback. Yeah. Sorry, Davinda.
sorry, Lara. Sorry, cut across you. No, it's something I fed back to a lot of app developers as well. It's a welcome screen. Give people a bit of an orientation. And some people call it, you know, like a tutorial you can skip.
Yeah.
So things like that can really help people just to feel a little bit more comfortable. It might be what library staff might be asked to do. It might be one of those, like Lara said, bridging the gap. I think, Keith, what you mentioned about the digital divide, it's always been there. I mean, in the 10 years I was teaching technology, we've always talked to people where we went from desktops, computers, now to smartphones, tablets. And you're right, you know, there's going to be people with dexterity issues, memory issues, and challenges. And it's just finding that route into that environment. And then once you're in that environment, for it to be as, I guess, customizable to what people need. I use the example, it's kind of like having a ramp in any premises. You know, it's good for those who need the use of it. But yeah, we need to keep people comfortable. So maybe that's part of that ongoing discussion and the sessions where the staff can kind of help people feel comfortable.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate your time on that one. We have one more question, so I'm just going to get that in quickly before we go. Catherine asks, I have had readers want to be able to speak to their device in order to use Libby as they do with Alexa and Audible. Might this be possible in future? Oh, she's from Wandsworth. Hi, Catherine from Wandsworth.
Hi, Catherine. Yes, this is something that is on the developers development list. We did in the past offer talk to service using Google, which I'm not sure why it was pulled back, but maybe it didn't. I'm not sure, but it is definitely something that's on the development list to make it compatible with services like Alexa, etc.
Amazing. We're at time, guys, so thank you so much. Really appreciate it. You will get all our email addresses in the follow-up, so please do reach out with anything. Oh, someone says, can you make zooming into the interface easier to make the navigation words bigger? So again, another piece of feedback for us. Thank you. Really appreciate that.
Yep.
I'll hand back to Becky so we can wrap up. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you to Laura for kind of spearheading this mini series. Thank you to Davinda for giving us that lived experience insight, which is so valuable for us. And I definitely learned a few things there. So thank you very much. And thank you for Scott for sharing the information about Libby and the current accessibility features. And hopefully we've given you a bit of a roadmap as to where we might like it to go next. so we can keep kind of moving forward on that accessibility journey. So thank you, everyone. We will share the slides and the recording and any links. Thanks, everyone.